I want to speak to something I see happening in many lives. There is a gap between intention and action. There is a space between wanting to do something and actually doing it. There is a distance between knowing what needs to be done and getting it done. And I can sense something in you. I can sense the frustration of knowing what you should do but not doing it. I can sense the weariness of watching yourself not follow through. I can sense the disappointment of looking back at the day and realizing you didn't do what you planned to do. I can sense the shame of having good intentions but not translating them into action. Many of you are caught in this cycle. You wake up with intention. You tell yourself today is different. Today you finally start that project. Today you finally have that conversation. Today you finally take care of that thing that's been hanging over your head. And then the day passes and you didn't do it. And you're disappointed in yourself. And many of you are wondering, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just do what I know I should do? Why is there such a gap between my intention and my action? Why do I feel so stuck in this cycle? But what if I told you that this gap is not a character flaw? What if I told you that this gap is not evidence that something is wrong with you? What if I told you that this gap is actually an invitation? An invitation to understand something about how you walk, an invitation to develop discipline, an invitation to build a new relationship with action. What if I told you that forcing yourself to get it done, not through harsh self-criticism, but through wise discipline, is one of the most transformative practices you can develop? What if I told you that when you master this, when you develop the capacity to do what needs to be done, regardless of how you feel, everything changes? I sense a readiness in you. I sense a part of you that knows it's time to close this gap. I sense a part of you that's tired of living with unrealized intentions. I sense a part of you that wants to become someone who follows through. And I'm here to tell you, this is possible. You are capable of this. The strength you need is available to you. Let me start by helping you understand something fundamental. I want to help you see the relationship between discipline and freedom. Most people think discipline is the opposite of freedom. Most people think discipline means constraint, limitation, not being able to do what you want. But this is actually backwards. Discipline is the path to freedom. Think about it this way. A person who can't discipline themselves to do what needs to be done is not free. They are enslaved to their moods. They are enslaved to their resistance. They are enslaved to their fear. They are controlled by their impulses and their avoidance patterns. But a person who can discipline themselves, who can do what needs to be done regardless of how they feel, is actually free. They are not controlled by their emotions. They are not controlled by their resistance. They are free to choose their actions based on what matters, not based on what feels easy in the moment. This is why discipline is so important. This is why forcing yourself to get it done in a wise way is so transformative. Now, let me talk about what forcing yourself actually means, because this term can be misunderstood. Forcing yourself does not mean being harsh with yourself. It does not mean beating yourself up. It does not mean self-punishment. It does not mean ignoring your genuine needs and limitations. Forcing yourself means choosing to do what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like doing it. It means overriding your resistance. It means not waiting for motivation to strike before you act. It means taking action from a place of commitment rather than from a place of feeling like it. Think of it this way. You don't have to feel like brushing your teeth to brush your teeth. You don't have to feel like eating when your body needs food. You don't have to feel like going to the doctor when you're sick. You override your feelings and do what needs to be done because it serves you. The same principle applies to the bigger things. You don't have to feel like starting that project to start it. You don't have to feel like having that conversation to have it. You don't have to feel like exercising to exercise. You do these things because they serve you, because they move you toward your goals, because they align with your values. This is what forcing yourself means. It means being disciplined. It means not letting your feelings dictate your actions. It means doing what matters, regardless of whether you feel like it. Now, let me talk about why this is so hard. Because for many of you, not acting is the easier option. Not doing is the path of least resistance. And resistance is real. Resistance is powerful. Resistance shows up as many things. It shows up as procrastination. It shows up as distraction. It shows up as finding reasons why today is not the day. It shows up as fear. It shows up as perfectionism. It shows up as overwhelm. And when you are experiencing resistance, when you're experiencing any of these things, everything in you is saying, don't do this, don't start, don't do it today, wait for tomorrow, wait until you feel more like it, wait until the timing is better, wait until you're in a better mood. But here's what's important to understand: the resistance will not go away on its own. If you wait for the resistance to disappear before you act, you might wait forever. The resistance often only disappears after you take action, not before. This is the secret. This is what mentally strong people understand. You don't wait until you feel like doing something to do it. You do it and then you feel different. You do it and then the resistance dissolves. You do it and then you realize it wasn't as hard as you thought. But first, you have to force yourself. You have to override the resistance. You have to choose action despite the resistance. Now, let me talk about the power of starting, because starting is often the hardest part. Starting is where most people get stuck. You're looking at the task that needs to be done. You're looking at the project that needs to be started. You're looking at the conversation that needs to happen, and it feels big. It feels overwhelming. And so you don't start. But here's what happens when you force yourself to start. Even in the smallest way, you build momentum. You build momentum by taking action. And momentum is powerful. Think about a boulder. A boulder at rest is hard to move. It takes tremendous effort to get it moving. But once it's moving, once you've got it rolling, it becomes easier to keep it moving. Momentum keeps it going. Your projects are the same. Starting is hard. But once you start, once you take the first small action, momentum begins to build. And that momentum carries you forward. Suddenly the thing that felt impossible feels manageable. This is why forcing yourself to start is so crucial. This is why taking that first small action, even if it's tiny, is so important. Now, let me talk about the connection between discipline and purpose. Because discipline is not just about doing things. Discipline is about doing things that align with what matters to you. If you're disciplining yourself to do something that doesn't matter to you, yes, it feels like force, it feels like constraint, it feels like punishment. But if you're disciplining yourself to do something that aligns with your values, something that moves you toward your purpose, something that serves your life, it feels different. It feels like you're honoring yourself. It feels like you're taking care of yourself. This is why clarifying your purpose is so important. This is why knowing what matters to you is crucial. Because when you are clear about what matters, when you are clear about your purpose, discipline becomes service to yourself rather than punishment. You're forcing yourself to get it done, not because you're a harsh taskmaster. You are forcing yourself to get it done because you love yourself and you respect yourself and you know that getting this done serves you. Let me talk about something else that's important. I want to talk about the role of willpower and the role of systems. Many of you think that the solution to not following through is more willpower. You think if you could just be stronger, if you could just have more self-control, you'll be able to force yourself to do what needs to be done. But willpower is limited. Willpower depletes. You can't rely on willpower alone. But what you can do is build systems. You can build structures that make it easier to do what needs to be done. You can build habits. You can remove obstacles. You can create accountability. For example, if you are trying to exercise but you're not forcing yourself to do it, one solution is to find an exercise partner. Now you have accountability. Now you can't bail because someone's counting on you. That's a system. If you are trying to write but you are not forcing yourself to do it, one solution is to commit to writing at a specific time every day and go to a coffee shop where you work. Now you have structure. Now it's easier to do. If you are trying to have a difficult conversation but you are avoiding it, one solution is to schedule it in your calendar and tell the other person, now it's real. Now you can't back out. Systems make discipline easier. Systems reduce the reliance on willpower alone. Systems are crucial. So when you're thinking about forcing yourself to get it done, think about both. You need some internal discipline, yes, but you also need external systems that support that discipline. Now, let me talk about something that many of you might be thinking. You might be thinking, but what if I'm depressed? What if I'm dealing with mental health issues? What if forcing myself is harmful? And this is an important question, and the answer is nuanced. If you're dealing with clinical depression, if you're dealing with significant anxiety, if you're dealing with trauma, you might need professional support. You might need therapy. You might need medication. This is not something willpower alone will fix. But here's what's also true. Even when dealing with these things, there are still small actions you can take. Even when you're struggling mentally, you can force yourself to do something small. You can force yourself to take a walk. You can force yourself to reach out to someone. You can force yourself to get out of bed. And these small actions, these small disciplinary choices can be part of your healing. They are not the whole answer, but they are part of it. So if you're struggling with mental health, please get professional support. But don't let that be an excuse to avoid all action. Work with your support system to identify what you can do, what actions are appropriate for where you are right now, and force yourself to take those actions. Now, let me ground this in scripture, because the Bible speaks extensively about discipline, about action, about following through, about perseverance. Proverbs 6:9-1, 1 NKJV. How long will you slumber, O sluggard? When will you rise from your sleep? A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest. So shall your poverty come on you like a prowler, and your need like an armed man. Solomon is asking, how long will you wait? How long will you procrastinate? How long will you not do what needs to be done? And Solomon is saying that this inaction has consequences. Your poverty, in whatever form that takes for you, comes from inaction. This is not meant to shame you. This is meant to wake you up. This is meant to help you understand that action matters, that following through matters, that forcing yourself to do what needs to be done has real consequences. Colossians 3:17, NKJV. And whatever you do in word or deed, do all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. Paul is saying that whatever you do, do it well. Do it as if you're doing it for the Lord. This shifts the whole context. You are not doing these things just for yourself. You're doing them as service. You're doing them with intention and care. When you frame your discipline this way, when you frame your first action this way, it changes the quality of what you do. It raises the stakes. It makes it matter more. Proverbs 22:29, NKJV. Do you see a man diligent in his business? He will stand before kings. He will not stand before unknown men. Solomon is talking about the power of diligence. When you're diligent, when you force yourself to get your work done, when you are consistent and thorough, doors open. You stand before kings. You're recognized. You're elevated. This is not about arrogance. This is about understanding that diligence matters, that following through matters, that forcing yourself to get it done has real rewards. Proverbs 27:12, NKJV. A prudent man foresees evil and hides himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. Prudence is wisdom, and part of wisdom is doing what needs to be done before crisis forces you to. The prudent person takes action. The simple person waits until disaster forces action, and by then it's often too late. This is saying that forcing yourself to do what needs to be done now is prudent, is wise. It prevents problems later. 1 Corinthians 9:24-27, NKJV. Do you not know that those who run in a race all run, but one receives the prize? Run in such a way that you may obtain it, and everyone who competes for the prize is temperate in all things. Now they do it to obtain a perishable crown, but we for an imperishable crown. Therefore I run thus, not with uncertainty, thus I fight, not as one who beats the air. But I discipline my body and bring it into subjection, lest when I have preached to others, I myself should become disqualified. Paul is using the metaphor of athletic training. Athletes are disciplined. They do what needs to be done. They don't skip training because they don't feel like it. They discipline themselves because they are aiming for something. Paul is saying that spiritual life is similar. You discipline yourself. You do what needs to be done. You're aiming for something that matters. 2 Timothy 2-3-4 NKJV. You therefore must endure hardship as a good soldier of Jesus Christ. No one engaged in warfare entangles himself with the affairs of this life, that he may please him who enlisted him. Paul is talking about focus. A soldier doesn't get distracted. A soldier stays focused on the mission. A soldier forces themselves to do what needs to be done, despite the difficulty and despite the temptation to be distracted. This is the kind of focus that's needed when you are forcing yourself to get things done. You stay focused. You don't get distracted by the easy option. Hebrews 12:1-2 NKJV. Therefore we also, since we are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily ensnares us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and has sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. The author of Hebrews is talking about laying aside weights, running with endurance, looking unto Jesus. Jesus endured the cross. Jesus did what needed to be done, despite the difficulty and the shame. If Jesus could endure the cross, you can endure the discomfort of forcing yourself to do what needs to be done. Proverbs 13:4 NKJV. The soul of a lazy man desires and has nothing, but the soul of the diligent shall be made rich. Solomon is making a clear distinction. The lazy person desires but doesn't act. The diligent person acts, and because they act, they are enriched. This is the fundamental choice. Desire with inaction leads nowhere. Diligence leads to richness in whatever form that takes. Now, let me speak directly to your heart about what you might be experiencing as you think about forcing yourself to get it done. Many of you are experiencing resistance right now. As you listen to this message, something in you is pushing back. Something in you is thinking, but I am tired, but I don't feel like it. But maybe tomorrow. And the resistance is real. And I want to tell you, the resistance is normal. The resistance is expected. The resistance is the thing standing between you and your goals. And the question is not whether the resistance will come, it will. The question is whether you override it. Many of you are experiencing perfectionism. You're not starting because you're afraid it won't be perfect. You're not finishing because it's not meeting your standards. You're staying stuck in the gap between your intention and reality, because reality is never as perfect as your vision. And I want to tell you, done is better than perfect. Getting it done, even if it's not perfect, is better than never doing it. You can always improve something that's done. You can never improve something that doesn't exist. Many of you are experiencing fear. You are afraid of failing. You are afraid of criticism. You are afraid of being judged. You are afraid of stepping into your power. And so you stay small. You stay stuck. You don't force yourself to get it done because the fear feels too big. And I want to tell you, the only way through fear is through it. You do the thing while the fear is there. You don't wait for the fear to go away. You act despite the fear. Many of you are experiencing overwhelm. The task feels too big. The goal feels too far away. The work feels too much. And in the face of that overwhelm, you freeze. You can't force yourself to get it done because it feels impossible. And I want to tell you, break it down. Make it smaller. Instead of trying to do the whole project, just do the first small step. Overwhelm comes from looking at the whole. Momentum comes from taking the first small action. Many of you are experiencing a lack of belief in yourself. You don't believe you can do it. You don't believe you're capable. You don't believe your efforts will matter. And without that belief, forcing yourself feels meaningless. And I want to tell you, belief grows through action. You don't feel capable and then act. You act and then you feel more capable. You do the hard thing and then you believe more in yourself. Action builds belief. Many of you are experiencing a lack of clarity about what needs to be done. You're confused. you're not sure what the right action is, and in that confusion you stay stuck. And I want to tell you, clarity comes through action too. Sometimes you have to start to understand what needs to happen next. Sometimes you have to do something imperfect to understand what the right path is. You don't have to have everything figured out before you start. Many of you are experiencing isolation. You're trying to force yourself alone. You don't have support. You don't have accountability. You don't have someone believing in you. And that makes everything harder. And I want to tell you, you don't have to do this alone. Find someone, tell them what you're committing to, ask them to check in with you, let them support you. Accountability and support make it easier to force yourself. Let me talk about what happens when you force yourself to get it done, because this is important to understand. This is what keeps you going when it's hard. First, you experience relief. You get the thing done and the weight that's been sitting on you lifts. The thing that's been hanging over your head is gone. You feel lighter. You feel free. Second, you experience the momentum I talked about. You realize that starting was the hardest part, and now that you've started, you are gathering momentum, and that momentum carries you forward. Third, you experience a shift in your relationship to yourself. You realize that you can do hard things. You realize that you're stronger than you thought. You realize that you can overcome your resistance, and this builds confidence. Fourth, you experience the benefits of having it done. Maybe it's the approval of others. Maybe it's the progress toward your goals. Maybe it's the sense of completion. Whatever the benefit is, you get to experience it because you force yourself. Fifth, you experience a shift in your identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who gets things done. You begin to see yourself as disciplined. You begin to see yourself as reliable. And this identity shift is powerful. Sixth, you notice that future tasks feel easier because you've proven to yourself that you can do hard things, because you build confidence, because you've proven that the resistance was worth overriding. Seventh, you begin to understand that forcing yourself is not about being harsh. It's about loving yourself. It's about serving yourself. It's about honoring your own potential. This is what becomes possible when you force yourself to get it done. Let me talk about some practical strategies for forcing yourself to get it done when the resistance is high. First, identify the specific task, not a vague goal, but a specific task. Not work on my project, but work on chapter 3 of my project for 45 minutes. Specificity makes it easier to force yourself. Second, commit publicly. Tell someone what you're going to do. Write it down, post it somewhere, you'll see it. Public commitment creates accountability and makes it harder to back out. Third, break it into small steps. Instead of thinking about the whole project, think about the first step. The first step is usually small enough that you can force yourself to do it. Fourth, set a timer. If the task is big, commit to working on it for a specific amount of time, not forever, just 30 minutes or an hour. A specific time frame makes it feel manageable. Fifth, remove distractions. Put your phone away. Close unnecessary tabs on your computer. Create an environment that makes it easier to focus and harder to escape. Sixth, start before you feel ready. Don't wait until you are in the perfect mood. Don't wait until you have a perfect block of time. Start now. Start small. Start something. Seventh, reward yourself after. Once you force yourself to do it, celebrate. Give yourself credit. Do something you enjoy. Make it worth it to force yourself. Eighth, keep a record. Write down what you did. Keep track of the days you forced yourself. When you can see the pattern of following through, it reinforces the behavior. Ninth, be gentle with yourself. If you don't force yourself one day, that doesn't mean you're a failure. That means you're human. The next day, force yourself again. 10th, remember your why. Remember why this matters. Remember what you're working toward. When the resistance is high, remember your why. It will pull you forward. These are practical strategies. Use them. Experiment with them. Find what works for you. I want to talk about something important. I want to talk about the difference between forcing yourself and pushing yourself into harm. There's a line. On one side of the line is healthy discipline. On the other side is harmful pushing. Healthy discipline is pushing yourself to do what's good for you, even though it's hard. Healthy discipline is forcing yourself to exercise even though you are tired. Healthy discipline is forcing yourself to have the difficult conversation even though you are scared. Healthy discipline is pushing towards something that serves you. But harmful pushing is ignoring genuine limitations. Harmful pushing is bypassing what your body is telling you. Harmful pushing is pushing through illness or injury. Harmful pushing is overriding genuine needs for rest and recovery. The difference is often about wisdom. It's about knowing the difference between resistance and genuine need. It's about knowing the difference between healthy discomfort and harmful pushing. If you're genuinely exhausted, if you're genuinely ill, if you're genuinely in need of rest, that's different from resistance. That's a genuine limitation, and respect that. Rest, recover, and then force yourself again. But if you're just not in the mood, if you're just experiencing resistance, if you're just scared, that's when you force yourself. That's when you override the feeling and do the thing anyway. Wisdom is knowing the difference. Let me speak some declarations over you. These are declarations about your capacity and your strength. I am capable of forcing myself to get things done. I have the strength to override resistance and take action. I do not wait for perfect conditions to begin. I start where I am with what I have. I break tasks into small steps and take them one at a time. I don't let the size of the project paralyze me. I am disciplined. I do what needs to be done, even when I don't feel like it. I honor my commitments to myself. I build momentum through action. The more I force myself to start, the easier it becomes. I am worthy of the effort. What I'm working toward matters. I matter. I am proud of myself for pushing through resistance. I am proud of myself for following through. I learn from each time I force myself. Each action builds my confidence and my belief in myself. I am someone who gets things done. I am reliable. I am disciplined. I am strong. I choose action over comfort when it matters. I choose progress over ease. I choose myself. Let me close with a prayer for you. A prayer for the strength to force yourself, for the wisdom to know when to push, and for the grace to celebrate your follow through. Father, I come before you recognizing the gap between my intention and my action. I come carrying the weight of things I've wanted to do but haven't done. Help me to develop the discipline to force myself to get things done. Not harshly, but with love for myself. Not recklessly, but with wisdom. Help me to understand that discipline is not punishment. Discipline is love. Discipline is honoring myself and my potential. Help me to override my resistance. Help me to do what needs to be done even when I don't feel like it. Help me to understand that my feelings are not the boss of my choices. Help me to take the first small step. Help me to break overwhelming projects into manageable pieces. Help me to build momentum. Help me to understand that once I start, momentum carries me forward. Help me to lean on that momentum. Help me to remove distractions and create systems that support my follow through. Help me to build structures that make it easier to do what needs to be done. Help me to remember my why when resistance is high. Help me to keep my eyes on what matters. Help me to push toward my purpose. Help me to be wise. Help me to know the difference between healthy discipline and harmful pushing. Help me to respect genuine limitations while also overriding mere resistance. Most of all, help me to believe in myself. Help me to build belief through action. Help me to see myself as someone who gets things done. Help me to become that person. Thank you for the strength within me. Thank you for the power to overcome resistance. Thank you for the grace to keep trying. Amen. As you move forward from here, I want you to remember this. The gap between intention and action is where most people stay stuck, but you don't have to. You have the capacity to close that gap. You have the capacity to force yourself to get things done. It won't always be easy. There will be days when the resistance is high. There will be moments when you don't feel like it, but you can do it anyway. You can override the resistance. You can take action despite the feeling. And each time you do, each time you force yourself to get something done, you are building something. You're building discipline. You're building confidence. You're building the belief that you're capable. You're building momentum. Start small. Start somewhere. Start today. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Don't wait until you feel like it. Force yourself to take one small action toward what matters. And then tomorrow, force yourself to take another step. And the day after, another. And as you stack these days together, as you build this pattern of follow through, you become someone different. You become someone who gets things done. This person is you. This strength is in you. Go and access it. Force yourself to get it done.